Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. Pleased to have you joining us. I am joined by Mike Griffith right down there, by Jimmy Himes right there, and by Bob Hodge right here. This segment brought to you by Blue Smoke Cigar and Smoke and Joe's. Smoke and Joe's is the parent company. They have their store down in Blount County, really nice store. But for those of you who aren't aware of Blue Smoke Cigar yet, it is an official Caldwell Cigar branded lounge. The artwork in there is really slick. The Caldwell people have come in, and it's nice. All of the best boutique cigars available in the United States right there at Blue Smoke Cigars. I mean, it's really nice selection. They have private card rooms, TV room, leather couches, chairs, all the HD monitors you could want, lockers for your own smokes and spirits, even a golf simulator down there. Perfect for cigar fans, of which I am one, across from Rafferty's between South Peters Road and Kingston Pike. Blue Smoke Cigar. Check it out for yourself. If you enjoy fine cigars, it's the place to go. If you're watching us today and you're saying, you know what, I'd like to watch the last round of the Masters somewhere, Blue Smoke Cigar, place to go. All right. Tennessee announced this week that they will be playing Oklahoma again. They put them on the football schedule. That'll be in 2020 at Oklahoma, and then in 2024, Oklahoma comes back here. I wanted to look at who Tennessee has played over the past 25 or so years. We went back to 1989. The big-name schools, because typically UT plays at least one big-name school a year. Now, when the SEC went to 8 games in its schedule, that kind of changed a little bit, and it went down to like 1 per year. But before that, you sometimes had 2 or even 3 big names in there. I wanted to look at that, and on this graphic we're about to show you, it's so tiny you can walk up to your screen and see it. We're going to read through this, and I'll leave it up there forever. I don't know if you can read it or not. My option was to retype all that crap or just put that up there. So I just put that up there. We also list some Power 5 teams that Tennessee has either never played or hasn't played in the last 30 years that I think would be good matchups. And we've got some teams that Tennessee has played or will be playing that I think would make good home-and-home matchups as well. So we'll run through all this. You can leave that up there for a second. Just going back through 89 forward, at UCLA, played UCLA a bunch. Colorado neutral site game and Notre Dame, both in 1990. And that's the year Colorado won the national championship, so there's nothing to sneeze at. 1991, at Louisville, UCLA at home, and at Notre Dame. Just fabulous. They played no big games in 1992. That was the first year the SEC went to an 8-game schedule, and I think they were a little leery of being too tough in their scheduling that year. They played Louisville, then the next year at UCLA and Washington State, next year Oklahoma State, UCLA again, Texas Tech, and then at UCLA. 98, they had at Syracuse. 99, Notre Dame came here. In 2000, you're breaking in new quarterback. Again, they didn't put a big game in there, big name. 2001, you had Syracuse and at Notre Dame. 2002, Miami. 2003, Fresno State, which is a pretty good name program at the time, and Miami. Notre Dame, Cal, at UCLA, Oregon. In 2011, you had North Carolina, and you ducked out of it, and then they beat you in a bowl game. But you ducked out of North Carolina. 2012, NC State, neutral site game. You had Oregon. 2014, at Oklahoma. 2015, Oklahoma. 2016, the Virginia Tech game at Bristol. And then coming up for Georgia Tech this year in Atlanta. Next year, West Virginia and Charlotte. Next year, BYU and Knoxville. At Oklahoma. Pittsburgh in 2021. At Pittsburgh in 2022. At BYU in 2023. Oklahoma in 2024. And then you get Nebraska even further on out there. Okay, guys, you can come back to us now. Big names for the most part. Then you get down here recently, and it's Georgia Tech. Okay, neutral site, traditional foe. I get that. You played them for years. West Virginia. Okay. BYU. Okay. You get the Oklahoma, Pittsburgh. Seems like it's eased up a little. Seems like it's eased up a little bit than it was before. Oklahoma, I think, helps to rectify that by putting Oklahoma back on the schedule. But when you look at teams who are out there, is there anybody on this list that you've already played or Power 5 teams that you'd like to see Tennessee put on their schedule, that you think they should put on their schedule? Anybody? And we'll do a first round here. Then I'll list some of these teams from the Power 5. But who, if you could put anybody on the schedule for a home and home, who do you do, Bob?
My first choice would just be traditional. It'd be Georgia Tech.
So not necessarily a big power
Not
name.
necessarily a big power game, but I just go back to Georgia Tech. And then when we come around for the second round, I have my idea who that other team would be.
Okay, now the trouble with Georgia Tech, of course, you don't mind playing the triple option.
No, I don't mind that. I just like the idea Tennessee played Georgia Tech for years.
Your number one.
I just like it.
It's your number one alumni base down in Atlanta too, and
Yeah.
you recruit the hell out of Georgia. So I think Georgia Tech makes sense. It's just not that power name. Jimmy Himes, first you can put anybody on there. Who would it be?
Ohio State. And they actually had Ohio State scheduled for 2 games. And I'm not sure exactly
Who bought
what
out
happened.
who and what happened.
Yeah, but anyway, they had a 2-game series with them. And it didn't occur. I would like to see that one.
That to me is Tennessee has never played Ohio State. It is the biggest ripoff for Vol fans. I've lived in both communities, so I can tell you that Columbus is bigger than Knoxville, but they're just as passionate as Tennessee fans, just as insane in a lot of ways. The stadium experience, the history, the tradition, right down to both schools think they have the best band in the world. It's 5.5 hours if you drive like I drive. That is too perfect for Ohio State fans to be able to come down here and experience Knoxville, and for Tennessee fans to be able to go to Columbus and experience Ohio State. That one makes too much sense. It's embarrassing that those two schools have never gotten together being that close. Mike Griffith, who do you put on the list? If you get any one shot to put somebody on Tennessee's schedule, who's going to be?
Well, I like Ohio State. I'll vouch for their stadium and their fan experience. Had an opportunity to cover a Michigan State game there. Michigan State beat them. I'd say USC, actually.
Spoken like a true alum.
Well, no, I'm just saying it was a great game, even though Michigan State was freezing rain and cold, and it was a sellout. Nobody left the building.
I was there when Michigan State beat Ohio State, clearing the door for Tennessee to make it to the Fiesta Bowl in 1998.
But getting back to your question, Southern Cal. You know, Tennessee's series with the California schools to me have been very entertaining, whether it was the home and away with Cal, certainly UCLA games.
Yeah.
Oregon probably should have been a better series, but I like these Pac-12 series. And in Southern Cal, it's you talked about tradition and a trip to LA. I think Vol fans would enjoy that.
Since you brought up USC, let me throw 2 out here and get your take, because I think I'm going to get the right answer. I think you're not going to answer this wrong. UCLA, there have been great Tennessee UCLA games dating back to the 60s, and they've played somewhat regularly. To me, I agree, get USC on the schedule. They last played in 80 and 81. The 1980 game here was a last-second win by Southern Cal. The next year was a rout out there at the hands of Marcus Allen. But UCLA makes a lot of sense. Do you guys agree with UCLA?
I do agree.
Somebody from California, yeah.
And then Notre Dame, that's an obvious. I think everybody wants Notre Dame on the schedule, but when you think of the Tennessee-Notre Dame series, it's been a good series.
Hard to do now that they're married to the ACC. That's changed. It's been a game changer.
I mean, we're just playing brothers. I mean, here's the thing. Tennessee's not going to put more than one of these on a schedule at a time anyway, and we're already to 2024 on their schedule. So we're playing here. But all things being equal, I would put Notre Dame. Do you agree or no?
I agree.
yeah.
But you know who my next pick would be, or right there with him, would be Michigan. Because Tennessee and Michigan are mirror images of each other. You've both won tons of games, but you've been limited on how much success you've had as far as winning national championships. And I just think that is a natural that you could sit there and sort of say, okay, in the Big Ten, Michigan plays second fiddle to Ohio State. In the SEC, Tennessee has traditionally played second fiddle to Alabama.
Or Florida, depending on who was king.
And so I just think that is one, and I think people would enjoy that series as well.
I agree with Michigan.
There's one I really would like, and I like Michigan too. There's one I'd really like to see him play, and that's Texas.
Yeah.
UT versus UT, Burnt Orange versus Orange. I think there are a lot of compelling side stories to that one.
And have only met in bowl games. They've never played in the regular season with Texas. Mike Griffith, you have another one to add to this round of make-believe.
Yeah, no, this is fun. Penn State. I like the big stadium. Happy Valley is kind of out there. It's a little harder to get to, but it's a very unique setting. And they got a lot of passion, too. They're on the rise. You mentioned Pitt a second ago, John. Remember, they beat Clemson last year. I think that program, by the time Tennessee plays them, they're going to go, what in the world did we schedule this? These guys are good.
And you also have UConn and Nebraska. If you were looking through that list of upcoming foes, UConn and Nebraska are on there. We don't know the UConn years yet, but they've got a deal.
But Penn State's a good experience. It's a great stadium. A lot of tradition there.
Penn State's also, speaking of tradition, that's the reason Tennessee has lights in their stadium.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, they probably would have gotten them anyway by now, but that was the reason.
Shrewd move.
Throw out some other names here.
Oh, I was going to give you one. Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, what do you got?
I may be the only one that feels this way. North Carolina.
I think
I'd
that's
like
a
to
good
see
one.
him play
Right-
North
yeah,
Carolina.
why not?
It's
Right over the mountain.
relatively close, and it's a pretty scene. And
Let's see, I was going to go with Clemson.
okay.
And then for the same reasons. I mean, almost you could interchange.
Thought
right
about
now.
that.
Clemson's obviously got a better program going right now, better name.
What about Arizona State? That little flashback to the national title, talking about nice settings.
See, I like Arizona State or Arizona. I think I don't know that we're in, these first 8 are in strong agreement. North Carolina, Clemson, I think we're getting into our personal flavors. I would say Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
Because,
there's a good one.
because you just had a great experience at Bristol. Fans are close. It's an easy trip. I'm into more intersectional rivalries, though. If you gave me a choice, I would be looking at Wisconsin, even Iowa, Arizona State, Colorado. Go out there and have a good time on your trip.
That'd be too good.
To me, if Tennessee's going to play somebody, Virginia Tech makes sense for fans. But if you could do a home and home, I think people here enjoyed going to Oregon. And I think people in Oregon enjoyed coming here. So I like those experiences you don't get.
Nebraska, to me, had the best fan experience. Of all the Big Ten stadiums, to me, that was the most pleasant, friendliest Big Ten trip on
And
the
they've
road.
got that lined up. Like I say, that's late into the 2020s, but Nebraska is on the schedule if it comes through.
I'd like to see him. You mentioned Wisconsin. Play Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, like
Wouldn't that be
LSU did.
fun?
Get them in a historic venue.
Yeah, but then you
Like,
lose
I'd
out
like
on the
to-
Camp
yeah,
Randall
I'd like to
experience.
experience
That's
that.
pretty good.
It's
That's
pretty
a pretty
good.
good
I've been
stadium.
there.
Jimmy.
I
I like home and
understand
homes
that.
better than the neutrals.
But I think playing in an NFL stadium for those guys. I know
Right.
LSU fans love playing at Lambeau Field.
And then they'll say, okay, we want to play
Your,
I'll
Tennessee.
throw
your
another
team
one
has
here.
to be disinfected
No.
when you leave Lambeau Field.
Looking like a Viking fan.
Okay, play them in Minnesota.
There you go.
What about,
Play
you know,
Wisconsin and
North
Minnesota.
Carolina
Minnesota.
makes sense. You know, they used to play North Carolina. The old legend is that they stopped playing because they get in a fight every year. That's why they stopped playing them in a regular, and that's the 50s. But they stopped playing them because the rivalry got too heated. Legend has it. Florida State, I think they played them once when Florida State was just beginning its
Yes.
program.
Yep.
That
Like
might, again,
58
that's
or
not
something.
intersectional
Burt
really.
Reynolds.
Yeah, that's not really intersectional, but that would be an interesting to put on the list. You're going to play them in Charlotte, but in terms of a wild, rabid fan base, West Virginia. You know, if you're going to throw out a Virginia Tech or a Clemson or North Carolina, something that's an easier trip, West Virginia isn't a nightmare. It's a little bit different
Yeah.
than what Tennessee's done. Play them late in the year, have a snow game.
Wow.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And I'd say, and that's something else. That's something else I would like to see too. I
game.
wouldn't mind seeing the college football season be pushed back about a week and get into a little bit more weather situations like that, because it's fun in the NFL. Anytime there's a game in the NFL and you're watching it, and it's a snowy, cold-looking situation, I think it makes the game more interesting, especially if I'm sitting in my house where it's nice and warm. And,
Hot chocolate.
and you could have some of those games mix in with that, although they tend to come at the beginning of the season and not the end.
Right. I'm like you. I would love to see, and I don't know, most fans wouldn't want this, but every year it winds up we're talking about UT's home opener, and it's going to be 98 degrees. Be sure to drink water and do all this other stuff. If it were me, I would rather skip that one, push it back, and have a week where, holy smokes, there's actually flurries in the forecast.
Yeah.
Now that would be spectacular. And of course, it used to snow here in Knoxville on occasion, but that never happens anymore. Here was our 8, though. Let me show you this. This is a top 8 that I think that we all agreed upon, and we threw out a lot of names here. Well, we need to take, there we go. Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Southern Cal, UCLA, Notre Dame, Michigan, Texas, Penn State.
I think that's a heck. If
none of
Tennessee
those-
could just go there, forget every other name on the list, but if you could get that into some sort of rotation, I think it would be wonderful. That'd be fantastic.
What you're looking at, that's 16 years. If you did a home and home for each, that's 16 seasons. So you've covered 2 decades basically, because you don't put 2 of these teams on your schedule anymore. And that's the other thing I want to close out with. It's interesting. You go back, 1990. You had Colorado, who won the national championship. You played them in Anaheim in a kickoff game. You already had Notre Dame on your schedule. The next year, you open at Louisville. Then you play UCLA. You play at Notre Dame that year. Then the SEC expanded, and that went out the window. As great as it would be, as much as you'd love to see that kind of a schedule as a fan, coaches would be fired on a regular basis. Well, they're not anyway, but I mean, I can't imagine a coach signing off on playing 2 of these in the same year anymore. much less 3. Can you imagine?
No,
that
and
if-
Georgia Tech used to be a regular part of that. Now Tennessee dominated that from the late '60s on. You know, I mean, but Georgia Tech was always there.
Well, it was there 50s and 60s, went away. Majors brought it back because that's what he remembered. And then when they went to the 8-game schedule, it wasn't Fulmer's his time. They didn't play him, so he dumped it. So it was off and on. It was kind of a 50s, 60s, and then you had a coach from that era who put it back in there. But yeah, that one makes a lot of sense because of the recruiting and everything else.
Well, let me ask you this, John.
Yeah.
I just had this thought. What if, moving forward, right? Somebody made us desire. What if in the SEC said, you know what? When you play the West team, it's going to be in the championship. You're going to play everybody in the East. The West is going to play the West. Those teams will meet in the SEC title game, but you got to play 2 of those teams in your preseason. So you play a 6-game SEC schedule against the other teams in your division, 2 of those big hosses, and then 2 non-conferences
See, I would rather see you play the SEC guys
from the other division.
from the other division.
But it's not equitable. That's the problem with that.
No, it's not equitable now, but you back up a few years, it wasn't equitable for the SEC West to be playing Tennessee and Florida because they dominated.
Yeah,
the
there
thing.
was a time when Alabama couldn't beat
move,
Tennessee.
It's
Sure.
going to move
They'll swing.
again. But I would rather, before you went to that, I would rather see just, okay, let's just play SEC.
So you'd rather have a home and home with LSU than a home and home with UCLA?
Yeah, I'd rather play SEC schools.
Just curious.
Let me ask you, you brought it up here. We did this several years ago. We did a show where I went out and talked to some marketing guys, Bill Schmidt, who was worldwide head of Gatorade and been involved in sports marketing, talked to some guys that I knew at Penn State about what they saw on the horizon. We did a show, it was a summer show, of the 4 or 5 things you're going to see more of in college football over the years. And number 1 on the list, and this was 7 or 8 years ago when we did this, number 1 on the list was more of these neutral site games. Since saying that, the guys we spoke to were right because that has exploded. And I think now that the Raiders are moving to Las Vegas and you're going to have a big 65,000 seat deal in Las Vegas, you're going to have games in Vegas too now. So that's another city that's going to do it. Charlotte now everybody's doing it at this point. If you had the chance, would you rather do home and homes? Or do you like playing, you mentioned if you're going to play Wisconsin, play them at Green Bay. Do you like the event feel more than the home and home? Because that's another debate.
I think it depends on where it is. For example, if I have a chance to play at the Cowboy Stadium and I'm a college player, I'd love to do that. I'd love to play at Lambeau. I don't care about playing in Minnesota Stadium.
Why?
No
Brand
offense.
new, it's
That's
state
what
of the
bowls
art.
are for.
Lambos
Have the
are
Green Bay
dumb.
Packer Bowl.
So it depends on the stadium. If it's a unique stadium, I would just as soon do
And I
that.
would-
Let me give you the option. Let me give you this option. If it's Tennessee versus Texas, you could play them home and home, or you could play them Titan Stadium, Cowboy Stadium.
See, I would go home and home.
I would because the Titan Stadium doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, but
I
you
would-
get what I'm saying. That's
I'd
that's
just
the other
play-
pro
yeah.
stadium in the
Yeah.
air.
But I would
But
go.
now
I would,
Texas fans are now to the point of saying Cowboy Stadium. They've been there. Done. What does it do for them?
I would go home and home in almost every instance. But last year Bristol was such an event it almost felt like a bowl game.
Yeah.
So when you can tie that in with it, okay, I understand it. But when it's just playing like you said over in
Well,
Nashville at Titan Stadium,
Charlotte?
Well, see, exactly. I would rather see Tennessee play West Virginia there and here than I would see them playing Charlotte.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I
Does nothing
understand.
for me.
Tennessee's now trying to recruit more in North Carolina. I understand the logistics of it.
Then go play North Carolina, which brings us back around.
Okay, Mike, your thoughts? You're not a fan of the.
No, I'm not. I like the stadium experience. You know, to me, that's one of the most exciting things, and one of the great things about college football is every stadium is different. You know, you mentioned unique NFL stadiums. Every college stadium is very unique. You know, there are no real cookie cutters, and then the fan experience as well. Where are you going to go eat? What's the pregame routine?
Yes.
What's the cheer? All this kind of stuff. And I know
Tailgating.
some of that can go to Charlotte, but I feel like that whole Charlotte, I mean, that just looks sterile to me. And frankly, I'd rather see Tennessee play Georgia Tech on their campus than this new monstrosity.
Oh,
of a
no, that
stadium.
new dome. But being
I'd
that
rather
it's
be
the
in the
first
new dome.
weekend, that's kind of cool.
I would. I'd rather be in the new dome.
And that's
If
when,
it's a
and
one-time
that's when
thing.
that's when you do these things. First weekend. If you're going to have one of these big events, do it first weekend.
And you wouldn't have a lot of these games unless it was a neutral site one-time event,
Yeah.
because you can't get home and home in some cases.
I do think that because I mean they were really cool. These things were really cool. I remember when Tennessee opened with Iowa in 1987 in East Rutherford. That was a unique thing. Colorado and that pigskin kickoff out there in Anaheim. And played on a crap field. It was half baseball. It was dirt.
It was, yeah.
But it was cool to see Tennessee, Colorado, huge top 10 teams going at it. Now you've got so many of those things. I think they've lost a little bit of their luster.
I agree.
The games are still good, and you'll sit there and wow, Southern Cal, Alabama doesn't turn out to be good on the field, but on paper, okay, I want to watch this. But it's not as special as it was even 10 years ago when you had one or two.
Bristol stood out last year because of the almost sort of the stunt factor we're playing.
Well, this
And
year
if
it's a
they do
Monday
it
night
again-
game. Are you good with that? And are you good with that? Monday nights.
Tennessee playing Monday night?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing because Tennessee's going to play Monday night against Georgia Tech and then turn around and play Saturday against Indiana State. Now, I understand Indiana State is
Indiana
FCS.
State.
At the same time, you got short week, Monday to
That's a big-
Saturday.
that's
It's
a
not
big
even
difference.
an NFL short
That's
week.
That's a big difference.
If you're going up against, we've said it before, Georgia Tech's a
chop
team
block to death.
That's right. If you've got injuries and you got a short week after to get ready for Indiana State, I don't think you're going to lose to Indiana State, but that one could be close enough to make people mad. If it's anything less than a 50-point
I was about
win,
to
I think
say.
people will be mad. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks to Mike Griffith, Jimmy Himes, Bob Hodge. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to all of our sponsors, including Blue Smoke Cigar and Smoke and Joe's. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 on WATE 6 for the Sports Source. Thank you.